The following series of strange incidents took place in the late 50s in Kansas City. At the time of the strange happenings, Marlene Simmons was a 37-year-old mother of 4 young children. Her husband worked long hours and was a district manager for a shoe company. The house they moved into in 1958 was only built in the early 50s, so had not accumulated much history or drama. It was a 4-bedroom ranch-style single-story house and was certainly not in any way grandiose. When they went to bed, Marlene would never immediately drop off to sleep and would often lay worrying or planning the movements for the following day. One particular night, as Marlene was still wide awake, she felt a strange pressure at the bottom of the bed and assumed one of the children was trying to climb into bed with them. Marlene then slowly sat up in bed and leaned forward in an attempt to grab the child, but as she reached out, she found she had just grabbed thin air. Marlene figured the child had quickly run back to bed and got out of bed to check on their welfare. She first checked the girls' room, but found them fast asleep, and then went to the boys' room, and they were also fast asleep. So where did the pressure at the bottom of the bed come from? She put the whole incident down to her imagination, that is, until the following night. As she was lying in bed, she felt the exact same pressure at the bottom of the bed and sat up and tried to grab whoever it was, but again found herself grasping at thin air. The same incidents were now happening every night, and she gave up getting out of bed to check on her children. At this stage, Marlene was not spooked in any way and believed that whatever was happening had a rational explanation. She now believed that her husband was somehow the cause of the pressure at the bottom of the bed and felt that he must be moving his feet around. For a few nights, Marlene was happy to accept this explanation, and when the pressure continued, she decided she would place her feet close to his in an attempt to control his movements. But after a while, she realized that her husband was not the cause of the pressure. One night, the strange occurrences went to another level when she could hear someone breathe deeply and heavily near the bedroom door, and when she quickly looked up, there was nothing to be seen. This would happen several nights in a row, and when she finally told her husband, he claimed he had heard nothing. She could not get him to accept that something weird was happening in the house, so never bothered to mention the pressure on the bed. One night, the strange events continued when she could hear the sound of someone stepping on cellophane shortly before feeling the pressure on the bottom of the bed again. Marlene knew that she had dropped the cellophane bag on the floor at the base of the bed and felt sure one of her children must have stepped on it. She sat up expecting to see one of the children, but again found them fast asleep in bed. For the first time, Marlene came to the conclusion that there was no rational explanation as to what was happening in the house, especially the heavy breathing, and was now genuinely frightened. For the next few weeks, nothing happened, and Marlene became lulled into a false sense of security, where the strange incidents took a back seat in her mind. However, several weeks later, Marlene was suddenly awakened from sleep by a terrifying sound. It sounded like a huge container of water being poured onto the house. It sounded like a torrential gush of water crashing down on the roof, and for the next few seconds continued to reverberate. The following morning, she walked around the house and examined all of the floors. As she entered the boys' room, she found an unusual liquid on the floor. It looked like a puddle of water, but had a thick consistency about it, but had no odour. She removed it with tissue paper, but fortunately left no stain. Her husband assumed it had come up through the floorboards or dropped from the ceiling, but Marlene was now questioning every strange event that had been happening in the house, especially the water crashing over the roof the previous night, to the oozy liquid on the floor in the boys' room. Several months later, the same oozy liquid appeared on the girls' bedroom floor. Both incidents remained a complete mystery. Marlene was now aware that what was happening was paranormal and believed that ghosts or mischievous spirits only inhabited old houses, not new houses such as the one they were living in. Unfortunately, the strange occurrences did not end and had, in fact, escalated. The situation became even more frightening and even dangerous when a car that had been securely parked on a slanting driveway across from their house came downhill and crashed into the boys' bedroom. Unfortunately, there were no injuries. Was this unforeseen force now becoming malevolent? A short time later, another car from across the street did the exact same thing, except this car came crashing into the girls' bedroom. Again, nobody was injured. The owner of the car swore he'd just secured his car and put it into a parking position, but just as he exited his vehicle, he saw it roll down the hill by itself. There was now no doubt that some negative entity was out to get them, as she tried to connect every strange thing that had happened since they moved in. Compared to when they first moved in, Marlene felt the atmosphere was now heavy, yet her husband felt nothing unusual, and if he did, he never discussed it with her. Marlene had no doubt that there was definitely an ominous presence in the house. One night when her husband was working late, she again heard the heavy breathing, followed by the pressure on the bed, and this time she felt it close to her and was too terrified to move. Something was now sharing her bed, and that something was not friendly. Marlene felt completely defenseless and alone, and lay in bed frightened and too scared to sleep. Marlene had no idea how much time had passed when she heard their car drive up to the door. The headlights shone through the bedroom window, and then she heard the motor turn off. She thought, "Oh, thank God my husband is home." Even though she still felt the strange presence close to her, she managed to summon the courage to jump out of bed and look out the window. She could not see anything, and then race across to the lounge room window, but instead of expecting to see her husband getting out of the car, there was nothing but the dark night and no car. Now feeling totally helpless, she ran back to bed and pulled the blankets over her head. When her husband finally arrived home, he did not believe her story and put it down to a nightmare she had had. Her husband later put in for a transfer to another location, and Marlene was ecstatic when they moved to an old mansion in Wichita filled with antiques and old furniture. Marlene felt that if any house should be haunted, it was this one, but the house proved to be peaceful and quiet. Marlene tried to put the terrible memories of the previous house to rest and believed the problem lay with the house and not her. However, she did worry about the next tenants that would have moved in. She also realised that it was possibly her own innate psychic ability that had allowed the phenomena to manifest itself, and another person might never be affected. However, whatever haunted her was certainly malicious, and who knows what lengths it would have taken to harm her or her family if they'd stayed there. She did wonder what had caused the heavy breathing, the water on the roof, the cars crashing into the house, and the ghost car in the driveway. And was it a result of some previous trauma that had taken place there? Many years later, Marlene was living in California, where her psychic abilities had further developed, where she would actually see the dead as a normal occurrence. She further researched ESP and automatic writing, where she claimed she was able to communicate with deceased relatives with her own hand. She had come to terms with her psychic powers and to live with them, but was also able to shut everything out if it got too much. The house that they lived in Kansas still stands, but apparently tenants do not stay there for very long.